Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today for our VMware MultiCloud live stream. Just a reminder for everyone joining us that these are taking place every week on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're featuring new speakers and topics each time. The recordings are also hosted on the VMware Cloud YouTube channel to watch on demand, so we encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date and see what's coming up and what the latest is. Today, we are excited to have Shri here with David and me today for part one of our series on operationalizing your public cloud. So for people who aren't familiar, Shri, David, can you both introduce yourselves, please?
Sure, I'm David Jasso. I'm part of the cloud marketing team here at VMware. And Lauren and I do these things twice a week. Shri, how about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Shri Vatsupadhyay. You can call me Shri. I'm a senior technical marketing architect. I focus on CloudHealth primarily and also on CloudHealth secure state. Thanks for having me, David and Lauren.
Awesome. We're happy you're here. And final reminder is if you have any questions and you are joining us live, feel free to add your questions into the chat and we will get to those during the session. So with that, Shri, I'll let you introduce what we're talking about today and take it from there.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to share a couple of slides and then we will jump right into the demo.
And while you're doing that, just a little side note, this is a multi-part series. We did a multi-part series on the hybrid cloud. We're continuing that thought around management and also paying homage to the sysadmins this month. We turned one day into a whole month of paying tribute to our sysadmins and virtual admins. So we're going to do a three-part series, and Shri is going to walk us and take us through the whole aspect of integrating the public cloud and management of it into everything you're doing.
Yeah, thanks, David. Yeah, so just to give a context, right? Today I'll be showing you CloudHealth by VMware as a platform, but just taking a step back and understanding, the problem itself, right? Most of our customers, David, they're trying to move and migrate to a public cloud environment. They want to maintain a private data center as well and move some of the apps to public cloud. And one common misconception that we always see with customers is, hey, if I move to public cloud, I'm going to save a lot of money, right? Yes, while 1 cent for a gig sounds pretty cheap, but there are a lot of other associated costs that come with public cloud environments, right? Storage is cheap, but when the data goes in and out, you do pay charges for that, right? There are networking costs associated with that, which usually customers tend to miss out on because of the way the pricing is structured on the cloud providers. And there are a lot of other hidden dependent costs that you might incur when you use these services, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's what makes it common.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's like the biggest cost actually is sort of the one that people incur because they sort of lose track of things, right? I mean, yeah. It's like great that, if you're really taking advantage of it, but if you're leaving things running and you're not paying attention or you're not aware of it, and it's hard to do because there's so many resources, that's when the bills really add up, right?
And also, exactly, and to add to that, these cloud providers keep adding new services every now and then, and developers are like, hey, I want to try that out because I think that's good for my app. And sometimes you go and try out things and you forget to delete them, right? It just happens. You're caught up so much in work, and there is no accountability in that aspect, and then you start losing track of this, right? And the costs increase. And then if you're a VP of infra, or you're a CEO who's looking at all the costs in the organization, and you're like, okay, where is all this money going, right? Which particular project is using that? Which particular team is using that? Why don't I have visibility into this, right? If you go to AWS or Azure, they're going to just send you one big bill, right, at the end of the month saying, okay, this is what are your dues, just make these payments, right? And that's the complexity CloudHealth wants to solve, right? If you're a customer who's going through this, who is having difficulty identifying, okay, where my costs are going, why am I incurring more than what I predicted for, and how can I save this? So I've saved more on this side, right? And overall, how do I integrate with my existing on-prem cloud expenditure, right? To solve all of that, we built a platform called CloudHealth. CloudHealth was acquired by VMware a few years ago, and CloudHealth is the leader in multi-cloud cost optimization space. And like David mentioned, we are doing 3-part, and today I want to focus on the optimization piece, right? In the next talk, I'll talk about how you can save more by leveraging reservations, and in the 3rd part, we'll talk about governance and how this entire ecosystem works. So just to quickly go over the slides, I think we need to update this number. We do right now almost $15 billion we manage in public cloud spend. We work across AWS, Azure, Google, as well as Oracle Cloud, one of the topmost cloud providers, and we keep working towards adding more and more cloud providers as our customers shift their strategies and choose others. We all know, the promise and the reality. I'm not going to go in this depth. We spoke about this. Everyone wants to quickly spin up their applications. Everyone wants to be flexible, wants to leverage more of as-a-service offerings, and that's where the attraction of leveraging the IaaS infrastructure, someone like AWS or Azure or Google comes in. And this is at a high level what CloudHealth offers. We have an integrated data layer where we ingest tons of data from cloud providers. We ingest, in case of AWS, we get CloudTrail data, we get CloudWatch metrics, we also get costing data, and this could be like a lot, right? So what we do is we help you analyze and make it easier to digest all of this information by providing you reporting, by providing you policies, which you can automate. You can say, okay, Shri is spending more than $500 this month and he's not allowed to. Let's send an email to his manager, or let's terminate the instances, or have a discussion about how we can reduce or optimize this, right? And finally, security and compliance, right? Which is another area we focus on.
Yeah, someone needs to talk to Shri about not spending more than $500.
$500, yeah. And then finally, CloudHealth does support you not just by providing a platform, but we also help you in building your cloud center of excellence or cloud business office. Whatever kind of organization you are structuring, and taking you through various phases, from enabling you to have visibility, optimization, governance, and then integrating with a lot of your other tools within your organization across finance, operations, and security, right? We cover all of these different pillars. And today I'm going to show you the visibility pillar across all of this. So let me just stop sharing my slides, and I will share the CloudHealth dashboard. So, are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're seeing here, is the front page of CloudHealth dashboard. We are looking at the MultiCloud Dashboard, right? As I mentioned earlier, CloudHealth works across multiple cloud providers. So, and one good thing about CloudHealth is we focus and we work with a lot of different personas, right? We work with DevOps, we work with finance, we work with if you're from engineering, or if you're an exec, right? So let's try to understand the data that CloudHealth can show you, right? So towards my top left, you can see we have multi-cloud costs, right? We're looking at costs across different cloud providers. It just gives me an overview of what is happening. Towards my right, I'm looking at multi-cloud cost for a particular organization, right? Engineering, and show me all the costs within engineering. This is what, David, we were talking about earlier, right? Me as a VP or exec, I want to say, okay, this particular project is costing so much because maybe I have profit and loss that I need to show, and this becomes a part of that, right? This becomes a part of how much of return on investment I'm getting. So I'll show you how CloudHealth does that categorization. We call it perspectives. I'll cover that in a bit. But you can also look at costs by different cloud providers. I just want to look at the AWS cost, Azure cost, GCP, or get a high-level summary in the form of these customizable racks. One nice thing about CloudHealth is you can customize this dashboard, right? I can come in, I can create a new dashboard if I want to. Let's say from my persona, I'm from engineering. I'm not interested maybe in cost, right? I'm more interested on the performance side. So I can select performance as a metrics. I'm looking at elastic load balance request, but I can choose any of these reports that are available out of box. And now I can see that over here, right? I can drag and drop, and you can see how easy it is to manage this, right? Now I can create Azure. Let's say I want to look at Azure usage and add that, right? There are 183 VMs running. And I can save this and make this my default dashboard, right? And from that point onward, the dashboard becomes my point of jumping into the platform. Where do I want to go every day when I log in? I look at CloudHealth. Okay, this is the area I want to go. So that CloudHealth has already started providing you value. It's already showing you, providing you visibility into your costs. And the next thing you would ask me is, okay, this is all good, but show me the cost across different services, right? So now we are looking at the AWS Cost History. I'm right now in the AWS tab, and you can see we are showing costs for last 13 months over here, right? And I can see the cost. This is the blue bar over here, shows the EC2 compute. I can hover over other services, S3 storage, EC2 transfer, and others, right? And within CloudHealth, we store the data for 13 months, like last 13 months of data. And you can get all of this data in the form of this table over here, right? And it's split by every single month. You can also export this. I can download it as PNG or CSV and import into other platforms. Or I can simply subscribe to this. Like I mentioned earlier, if I'm a manager, I want to get this report sent to me maybe bi-weekly, right? So I can customize that subscription. I can choose who are the folks that will get this particular email or subscription, and then go from there. And this is nice, right? But this kind of information is also provided by cloud providers, right? There's nothing.
Yeah. But yeah, even though it's provided by cloud providers, it's very hard to digest. It's almost like getting sort of the old phone bill, right, where you had like every call, and you're like, it's an exercise left to you to sort of aggregate it, figure out who's spending it. So I think huge amount of value that people get right off the bat just from having visibility, right? Which is this is sort of the table stakes for managing anything, right? Is like who's spending what and where are they spending it, and is that a good amount or a bad amount? Does that make sense, or is that like
exactly?
It's like we're way invested in building software and spending resources on a product that makes no money.
I mean, exactly to that point, right, Dave? So if we want to identify, let's say, how do you identify that, right? How do you identify which particular group this cost belongs to, right? We can see EC2 compute says 1.53 million. I don't know if it's by a product which makes me a ton of money, or it's by a product which is like bleeding money, right? And that's where the concept of perspective comes in. And this is where CloudHealth adds a ton of value, right? And perspectives are basically business groupings, right? They're customizable, and they represent your structure, how your organization is structured. So you can see here, I have some out-of-the-box filters, right? You can see it says billing account, charge type, months, or others. But I have other ones which are indicated by an icon P over here. And that's what is a perspective. So now let's say, David, you come to me and say, Shri, which project of me is spending a lot of money? I'm just going to change the category to project. And now instead of looking at cost by EC2, I'm looking at cost by these particular projects, right? You can see here now I'm looking at this tour project. In February of 2021, they spent $1.1 million, right? Where I can say, oh, wow, they're spending quite a bit, right? And these are other projects. I can see the cost for those as well on this side. So this quickly tells you which particular projects or which particular cost centers are spending more or less, right? So, and that gives you like a holistic view.
And then you could pump that data into budgets or forecasts and things like that. Sort of like, and you can do it by business group or by project or by whatever, whatever you need to do, basically, right?
Totally. And it happens sometimes that you want to filter out some of this data, right? You want to skip some of these options because they don't account towards your main business. So maybe you just want to filter them out. You can say, okay, I don't want to use maybe these two accounts, right?
Yeah, I want to filter out trees, $500 a month.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe that's the tracking you want to do, right? So
I only want to see Shri.
Only Shri.
only Shri's $500. Yeah. I mean, you can actually do that. Like if I switch to this owner category, you're absolutely right, David. So now I can look at all the costs for specific users in my organization, right? So I can now say, okay, maybe I just want to look at cost for Ben. This is cost for Ben. And if she was part of this organization, you could filter out by Shri and say, okay, Ben is spending $476,000 a month. That's huge, right? Or maybe not. Maybe he's super productive like me, and that's
He's
just
like a robot.
This way you can really see, though, start implementing accountability too, on an individual basis, not just on a project or an app or a service basis too. You can start creating leaderboards on who's producing and how much you're spending, and, in a friendly or competitive way, kind of see who can drive the most cost optimization based on these reports pretty easily.
Totally. Perfect. Absolutely right, Lauren. Yeah. So it's not just about projects or, groups. It's also individual accountability that CloudHealth can help you here with.
Yep. That goes back to what we said earlier, that even though you can get this information is supplied by the providers, but making sense of it is where the value is, because if you're getting transaction by transaction and you have to then figure out how to summarize it and break it out, it just takes forever.
Yeah. And one point you pointed, David, was how do I track against budgets, right? So we have a budget versus actual spend chart, which again is out of the box, right? These reports are out of the box. So now you can say, okay, this was my budget that I had allocated for a month of January 21, which is 3.6 million. And my actual spend was only 1.96, right? So the variance is 1.64. So, and then we have, amazing customizability within CloudHealth, where you can customize the budgets. You can configure for rollovers, from if you want to roll over the budget from one quarter to another quarter, if that is what your organization allows. So that is also part of CloudHealth platform, where you can customize all of this, right? You can look at the current costs and then build your own budgets that suit your business needs. And one more thing we do is we also have amortization reports. So one thing about cloud providers is, you can purchase these savings plan, reservations, reserved instances, and so on and so forth. All those are like making upfront payments so that you get some discount, right? In simple terms. And I'll cover that in our next, in our next session. I'll go more deeper on that. But usually these purchases are made at organization level, right? There's one master account, which is paying for all of this. And then you have other member accounts where they're consuming these resources. So maybe you have an account for engineering, you have an account for finance and marketing, but who is actually paying for it? It's paid for by corporate, right? But who is consuming it? So you want accountability on that aspect also. So here, this amortization report actually divides the cost into member accounts based on the account which actually consumed those resources. Let's say you bought a savings plan, it was used by engineering. Why does marketing have to, be charged back for that amount on their budget, right? They don't have to. So being on that side, tracking the usage. So again, can come in, I can say, okay, let's look at cost center. Like I want to look at all of this data based on the cost center. And I want to look at amortized costs just for the production environment. So these are the costs that we see based on the usage from the master account which was purchased, and the production cost center is actually using this, right? So you can see 260,000.
Yeah, I think the major takeaway there is that, there's almost as many reporting line structures as there are organizations in the world, and then you can customize this to be whatever you need to. If you have a very well aligned where it's by line of business and it's both they're both providers and consumers, you can see it that way. But if you have cost centers, you can see it then allocated to the end users. I think that's the main thing. Hey, I want to just highlight something here. I'm doing something that falls into this category of low-tech solutions to high-tech problems. My headset's not working right, so I just shoved it back off my ears to control the volume.
Wired headsets are the best.
Yes. Low-tech solutions to high-tech problems. Go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry.
yeah, no worries. So basically, that's about, where, these amortization, other features. We have like tons of reports out of the box. We have cost, we have performance, security. We even do container reporting, so we can look at your container costs as well. So if I come to my Kubernetes dashboard, we are looking at all of the different Kubernetes environments that you may have. I'm looking at some of them are EKS, some of them are hosted by customers on EC2 instances. So we can track those as well. And one thing we do, which is very interesting, is we also provide you high-level reports, right? So if you are, let's say, VP of Infra, and you're like, okay, these reports are nice, but show me what is happening overall within this environment. So I can come in and there is something called as a health check report within CloudHealth. And as soon as you come to this dashboard, you're looking at it says, possible optimization for July, you can save almost $100,000, right? It directly gets to the point, okay, what is happening within your environment. You can see immediate monthly savings. It says $1,400 I can save right away because there are like 237 unused DBS volumes, right? Which someone might have spin up and they just forgot to delete it, right? And it happens.
Shri,
So,
what have you done?
What have I done? Yeah. I've created more resources than the total amount allowed. Yeah. So exactly, right? So I've created here in this scenario 237 unused DBS volume. So if you have like unused elastic IPs, in case of AWS, you are billed for elastic IPs if you don't use them, right? Which is, if you are holding on to those IP addresses, you'll be paying. So CloudHealth can identify those as well. You can also identify cloud governance optimizations, right? And tagging is one of the best practices in public cloud environments, as you know. That's how you identify owners, and that's one of the ways you identify the projects. And not just for that, right? You can also use it for chargeback and showback.
I tell you that 26,000 is interesting, but what's really capturing my eye is that security risk exposure is super high.
Yeah.
Which is I'll do a plug for next month where we're going to focus on security compliance stuff.
Yeah. So that is something we have, out of the box in CloudHealth, right? We can look at your security risk exposure. In this case, we are looking at CIS AWS benchmark, and we have identified all of these violations. And like David pointed out, looks like I'm pretty bad at maintaining the hygiene in my environment, and it's at, it's high. We all just want to also mention, we also have, another product called a CloudHealth Secure State, which is solely dedicated on solving public cloud security, right? And I think if David invites me to the next webinar, whenever he's doing security one, I'll be happy to come and show that. And on the operational monthly savings, these are over-provisioned resources, right? We have this problem even on the data center side, right? You sometimes bloat up the VM, you add more CPUs and memory than it's needed, so you want to right-size them. So these are all the EC2 instances, and if there are EBS volumes which are over-provisioned, it will detect those. Thankfully, I don't have anything over here. And you can start saving from there, right? So I can go click on this particular object. It looks like I have more than 6,000 underutilized VMs, and CloudHealth will give you a recommendation as to what it thinks is the right thing to do. In this case, it's suggesting to terminate the instance. And if I look at this, it's saying to terminate because the CPU score is less than 1, right? It means it's not being used at all, but it's someone just left it there and has forgotten to delete it. And there are some instances where we have some usage, right? You can see here, it says the CPU score is 10. So if I click on this, you can also see these metrics, right? Where it says the maximum CPU used was only 10%, right? The allocated is 100%. So it's not even reaching 50% of the usage ever. So that's why CloudHealth is now recommending, instead of using a 4x large, why don't you use an extra large instance type, right? And that will save you $260 right away, which is pretty smart and such an easy way of digesting all of this information. Right?
Yeah, and probably would fall below the radar if you had to do this manually, because you'd be like, oh, there's no way. So you can collect up all of these things and
you're probably building a really big spreadsheet with all of these instances, right? And
and it's changing so quick, so it's hard to keep track of all of it, and especially across disparate environments and you're using more than one public cloud provider, you're swiveling your head back and forth between all of these different things and trying to look at all these different line items. It's pretty simplified here to be able to see it that way with automatic, recommendations. So it kind of points you right to where you need to focus your attention.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, it might be that by the time you update the spreadsheet, the metrics have changed on the other side, right? So now the numbers don't even make sense. So whatever you had projected savings, maybe those numbers are now.
Yeah, that's the thing about the public cloud. I mean, it's so dynamic and the scale is so large. There's so many small things, right, that you have to keep track of, that unless you have some automated support for, many things you do in the public cloud, you just can't do them well. It's just not, it's not possible.
That support is CloudHealth, David.
Oh, thank you.
And finally, you can take actions from here, right? You can stop an EC2 instance. You can go crazy. Okay, Shri has gone nuts and he's just stopping instances random. Or you can run a custom Lambda function. Or you can also create a policy, which I'll show, in a future talk on how you can customize our policies and use it across public cloud environments. So that's all I had for today's demo. Any questions?
Great stuff. Yeah, and that's awesome. I think, like I said, I think it's people can't do this without some sort of support. Well, there's other things out there, but you do need some sort of automated support no matter what. And I think we've got a great solution.
Yeah.
Good demo. Good stuff. Lauren?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think we'll, wrap here. Really appreciate it, Shri. And we know this isn't goodbye. We'll be seeing you next week for part 2, where we'll be focusing more on reservations and how to optimize your savings, leveraging those discount programs from your public cloud providers. So excited and looking forward to that. We'll give some time if anyone has any questions, but until then, any final thoughts from you guys, or else we'll wrap and see you next time.
It was good, Tree.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Lauren.
We're thinking about increasing your budget to $600.
$600.
Exactly. We'll see how you go with it on the next session there.
It'll be a trial run.
Trial run, if I can keep it. Yeah. Thanks for being so gracious.
Thanks,
David.
everyone.
All right, perfect.
Session.
See you next time. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.